Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Rockies Daily. I'm your host, Scott Ayers, where we are talking all things Colorado Rockies. I hope you are having a wonderful Friday. Rockies baseball has been back for a couple weeks now, and I will say today's episode gonna look a little bit different than kind of what we've done all week. Instead of reacting to the game that was played the night previous, um, I'm not able to record after the game. So instead, we're going to be talking about some other topics for Friday's show. And then for Monday's show, it will be a reaction to the games that were played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So essentially, reaction to that full series against the Padres. So instead, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about some of the different storylines that have developed or that are developing, as well as a very, very early look at maybe some potential targets for the Colorado Rockies. Because I think with these storylines, there could be some new things that are created. But first, let's talk about Warren Schaefer. And he had a really interesting quote after the sweep against the Houston Astros, in which a reporter asked, "Hey, are you kind of surprised by this start? You've talked about development. Are you surprised that it's already happening?" And he gave a really bullish answer that I absolutely loved. But essentially, no, I wasn't surprised. We had a really good spring. These guys know what they're doing, and they expect to win. Obviously, that's a bit of me. It's a bit of a sub quote there, but you get it, right? Like Warren Schaefer believes in this team. But more importantly, the players have seemingly forgotten the disaster that was the 2025 season. And you have to give a head nod to not only the new guys that have come in and helped with this culture right away. Willie Castro, Troy Johnson has been a revelation. Michael Lorenzen, these veteran pitchers who have just come in with a pro approach, but also the guys that have been here, Goodman and Tovar and Doyle and Freeland, all have confidence that this team can win. Now, we've seen different results for some of the players I mentioned. Doyle's obviously struggled at the plate early on, but Kyle Freeland's looked really good. Goodman has had some really, really fun at-bats. Tovar has looked great. And overall, the confidence of this team is just a total 180. And I think it's not only a mesh of what we've seen with some of these vets as well as some of these younger players, but it is the leadership of this team. Warren Schaefer has done a really, really solid job of getting these guys ready to play from camp until where we are right now in April. On top of that, Alan Leichman's approach with pitching and the pitch suggestions is obviously working because we have seen a ton of success early on with the starting pitching and with the bullpen. The bullpen has been probably the biggest revelation, and it's something that we've talked about on the show even before the start of the season, that this bullpen could be pretty good. They have been outstanding. Even with Agnos having that inflated ERA, they have a sub-2 ERA right now as of recording this video. They have been so good. Then you look at just obviously the approach at the plate, putting pressure on opposing teams. We talked about last episode of just that small ball approach at times, right? Bunting guys over. The best example is that Freeman at bat. He bunts a guy over, run field sac fly, the Rockies score another run. They are just constantly putting pressure on whoever they're playing against, and forcing them into mistakes. And so while you've had some losses that were, 4-3, or where the Rockies struggled to score more than a run or two, you have seen a couple of these games where they've ballooned some serious run totals just because that pressure is constantly being applied. And so I think that needs to be applauded and recognized. But just overall, this approach, and it starts with Warren Schaefer. He did not come into the season as the status quo of, hey, we're going to stink. You know what? I guess we'll just embrace stinking. It has been the polar opposite. He has complete faith and trust in these players, some of which are young and are rookies, who are really getting their first full nod of playing time, but has had complete trust in him, and guys who have needed to bounce back. Sugano has needed to bounce back, and he's looked really good through 2 starts. You look at Johnston, who wasn't much in Miami, has looked great. And even Edouard Julien, who I was not a believer in, and I'm still skeptical about, but just coming off a really, really strong series against Houston. And a lot of that just goes back to Warren Schaefer. It goes back to Alan Leichman, as well as Brett Pill and this approach for hitting. It's just been such an impressive start to the year. I know they're 6-6, and that might not be a high standard, but just from what we were expecting, as well as starting 0-3 to be 6-6 with series wins against Toronto and Houston. It's just important to note as the Rockies go on this journey to rebuild and hopefully be a contender in the next couple of seasons. And to build a contender, you have to bring in different prospects. You have to bring in different free agents. You have to make trades that can help elevate your team. And the reason why at the end of the 2026 season it's obviously interesting is because of this looming lockout that we won't know what will actually be in store. The idea of a salary cap has been floated around. A salary floor has been floated around. I think you can't have one without the other. And so there's going to be different things introduced that will hopefully prevent a lockout. And if there is one, end the lockout. And so for the Colorado Rockies, they're noticing success already this year. And so why not look at a way, way, way too early free agency targets for the Colorado Rockies? Because I do think one thing that they'll want to do is really find an ace or find some strong starting pitching. That's not to say that they don't already have some of it. But we're gonna see what they actually have as this season unfolds. Lorenzen's been close to getting blown up a couple times, and he's already been blown up once. Sugano has actually been a really nice story, and you hope it holds. And Jose Quintana has been hurt, so we don't really know what he's all about. And then, of course, Ryan Feltner, he's given us a bit of a roller coaster. Chase Dollander, I believe, Kyle Freeland on the broadcast called him a Ferrari, and I think that's exactly what he is. He has all the tools to be wildly successful. It's just a matter of kind of honing that in. But there are a couple different guys that are important to look at, and this isn't me saying the Rockies need to go and sign him. But if the Rockies want to continue to build, and I think that they will, looking at some of these top pitching prospects will be really interesting. Freddie Peralta, who it looked like he was going to sign a long-term deal with the Mets, that has now stalled. Trevor Rogers is a lefty. He can use a sinker. Shane Bieber has been dealing with injuries with Toronto. Could his asking price go down? The problem is, with all those names I mentioned, if you want them to come to Colorado, you're probably going to have to pay more. And that's where this issue will come up regardless of any of the names I mentioned or any other top pitching prospect. You can get guys like Sugano or Lorenzen, who you're not going to have to spend much on. But if you want to go and get someone that could very well be the ace of your team, the Rockies are probably going to have to spend a lot. Peralta is really interesting, wildly successful in Milwaukee. Has been okay to start the year for the Mets. Uses a four-seamer, a changeup. It's just a matter of would those pitches work at Coors Field. Then there's a guy like Brady Singer who's on the opposite end of the spectrum. I don't think he would be very expensive. He would probably fit that mold of a guy who had all the intangibles coming in, has had a very up and down legacy at the major league level, but could be interesting because he uses a sinker a lot, he uses a slider a lot. That could be decent at Coors. The problem is he could absolutely be rocked, just because he's been such an average pitcher. But these are all different names that the Rockies will hopefully consider come end of 2026 season. Now, the reason why this is way too early is a lot can change. A lot can change for the Colorado Rockies, both in a very, very good direction and obviously a very, very bad direction. And that's why you don't really want to put too much stock into any of these type of things, but more so just keep it in the back of your mind. I would love, though, someone like Peralta who you could bring in and be an ace right away. Just because Kyle Freeland has shown in the past that he's ace-worthy. He has started the season ace-worthy. Chase Dollander has the intangibles to be ace-worthy. But outside of that, it's kind of a hodgepodge. And so, I mean, a world where you got Freddie Peralta would be obviously really exciting. The problem is, are you going to want to spend the money that he probably thinks he's worth and the length of contract? There's been rumors that he wants a long-term deal. I don't know. And do the Rockies wait for, this upcoming offseason, or do they wait 2 off seasons from now, right? When maybe more of that salary cap and floor are really hitting, when you are starting to see more strides with your team. The problem is windows can open up at any time. And obviously, a World Series window feels like it's way, way down the line. But a playoff or a wild card window could be here sooner than you realize, just solely because you have some things that you can feel at least decently confident in, and that's the bullpen. It's a I think a really good bullpen that if you can protect those arms, you're going to be pretty darn happy with it. It's just how shaky will the starting that starting rotation be come May or June? Are they going to be still solid? If they're still solid, then that window begins to creak open as a potential wild card bid. And then you're looking at other targets, maybe another outfielder, maybe another infielder. But regardless, you get the point. There are going to be guys after this season that will be available. It's just a matter of, will the Rockies be willing to strike, or is it something that, hey, we're going to refrain until another year or two when we really feel like we can make a push, and then we'll be ready. I just don't know if you can rely solely on development of some of their younger guys that they have. Tanner Gordon that we've mentioned, Chase Dollander, who's currently in the bullpen, Ryan Feltner, right? Those are probably the top 3 names that are the guys being developed or have developed. But you get it. That's a tangent of a piece. Would love to know your thoughts in the comments. Should the Rockies target some of these guys in the offseason? I don't think deadline makes any sense whatsoever. You don't really want to trade any pieces for a top guy. But the offseason, that's when you're spending cash. You don't have to trade off assets. But give me your thoughts down below. Would love to hear what the Rockies should do in the 2026-27 offseason. Let's talk about April, though, because it is a gauntlet. They have survived. They've done a pretty darn good job. Obviously, they lose to the Phillies, or lose 2 out of 3 to the Phillies, but won both series against both Toronto and Houston, a sweep against Houston. Here's the rest of their month, though. San Diego, 4 against the Padres, 3 at Houston, 4 hosting against the Dodgers. Then you host 3 against the Padres. Then you finish the month on the road. 3 at the Mets and 3 against Cincinnati. That's 20 games right there. What would be a productive month of April? If the Rockies can find themselves at 16-16, meaning they go 10-10 over this next stretch, I would find that a wildly successful month. Coming in, I said if they can win 10 games in the month of April, that's a huge victory. There's a world where they win 14 or 15 games and are just a few games under 500. I mean, that would be great, especially because this next stretch where you're playing a bunch of a division opponent games, you play against New York, who is going to be a favorite, at least to make a deep playoff run. And then you go to Houston, who you just swept them in your house. You can't imagine you're going to be able to do the same when on the road. So this stretch is a gauntlet. This month is a gauntlet, but they've handled it well so far. Can they hold up? Can they continue to have success? And can they do it against division opponents? That's what I'm really excited to see. Those series, 2 series against San Diego, 1 against the Dodgers. Man, if you can go 500 on the road against San Diego, and then you have 7 games at home against the Dodgers and Padres combined, you can win 4 of those games. You're going to feel really, really good. Win 3, hey, that's not too bad. 2 or less, that's when it's like, okay. Now, granted, if they go 2-1 against the Padres and they get swept by the Dodgers, it's probably a somewhat different mindset. But regardless, month of April keeps chugging along. It does not get easier. In fact, it only gets harder from here. So hope our Rockies going into this weekend can take 2 from the Padres and then go straight to Houston. We'll give that recap next Monday. Finally, let's end the show. TJ Rumfield, ladies and gentlemen. TJ Rumfield. He's been putting up a bid early on into the season, 2 weeks in, of being one of the best rookies for the first month of baseball. I would argue he's probably the third best behind Sal Stewart and Chase DeLauder. He's just been so good. Batting .368. His slugging, .605. 2 home runs, 8 RBIs. On pace to have about a .315 average. His discipline at the plate has been so good. And he has looked so confident. And he's able to just poke things into the outfield. Just such a patient approach. And seriously, what a great deal for the Rockies it was to get him. We've talked about it a lot in the last week and a half. We talked about him in the spring and just his emergence, because it felt like a crapshoot in February of who was going to kind of emerge as the first baseman. Rumfield ended up running away with it. And now it kind of feels like he has complete control of being the starting first baseman. Just so good. And what's crazy is Charlie Condon in AAA has looked awesome. And you know what? There's a real world where Condon gets called up and you just figure out. Maybe you put Condon in right, Moniak at DH, Johnson in left, and Doyle in center field, right? Like, just get creative, because if Condon continues to have his plate dominance with what Rumfield is doing, you're going to be putting yourself in a good predicament where, hey, we need both Rumfield and Condon called up at the major league level. And if that's the case, I think the Rockies lineup can only get better. So this productivity from Rumfield is a very, very good thing for the Colorado Rockies, because Troy Johnson, if he can continue to be successful at the plate and you bring up Charlie Condon, now you have 6 or 7 batters in this lineup that can be pretty dangerous to face. And it's been a very long time since the Rockies have had a lineup where, 1 through 5, 1 through 6, 1 through 7 are all really good. If you bring up Condon and he's productive at the plate, now you're looking at, Tovar, Goodman, Rumfield, Johnson. Willie Castro at times has been okay. But you're just working with more at your disposal. So really, really good stuff from Rumfield. Has been really encouraging. And I just can't wait to see how this season unfolds for him. And because I'm sure he'll get hit with a slump at some point. It just is bound to happen. But how does he recover? How does he bounce back? Will all be really fun to watch unfold. So many positive stories and developments early on in this year. There might be none greater, though, than TJ Rumfield and his productivity with the Colorado Rockies. So that does it for Friday's episode. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends and family. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and here on YouTube. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.